stop already had my client in handcuffs.
Sorry, man. I was arresting my guy for being a goddamn sucker.
I love it.
In June of last year, I first posted this video footage showing the dash cam video as well as the cell phone video that this police officer had attempted to delete, apparently, but failed. The video footage was recovered. I posted it on YouTube. The criminal charges against my client were dismissed. And from my understanding, this police officer was fired. So fast forward a year later, we have now filed as of today, two federal civil rights lawsuits against this former police officer and against the town that he was working for. And the crazy thing is that this police officer that you see was decertified by the state, no longer able to be a police officer anymore for lying, for falsifying a document. And this small town, for whatever reason, sort of went to bat for him and got him recertified to work for their little police department. And this is what we ended up with. So two federal lawsuits filed today, one for this stop and one for the beating of a young guy out of Ohio named Nathan Nelson. And I'll tell you about both of them. First, let's look at this footage again. This was my client's dash cam footage that showed his actual driving immediately prior to his traffic stop. Now, Officer Shrewsbury, in his subsequent police report in the charging documents, he claimed that not only was Mr. Beckett speeding, but he saw him recklessly weaving through traffic, and that finally he caught up to him and was finally able to get him stopped. But we have this footage, and you be the judge of that, whether it shows Mr. Beckett recklessly driving and weaving in and out of traffic. So Brian's driving appears to be perfectly normal, but here's what Officer Shrewsbury said in his police report. I was conducting an aggressive driving patrol within the city limits of Mount Hope, Fayette County, West Virginia, traveling southbound on US Route 19. Now, obviously, they're not within this small town of Mount Hope, West Virginia. They're just on this adjacent 4-lane highway that really has nothing to do with the town. Using my front fixed in-car radar, I observed a gray Honda traveling at a high rate of speed northbound. Then I used my radar to observe the vehicle traveling at a speed of 82 in a posted 65 miles per hour speed zone. I activated my lights and siren and pulled through the median to catch up to the vehicle for a violation of West Virginia State Code 17C61. So here now you will see Officer Shrewsbury passing. And then we'll take a look at the dashcam footage again. And here's the footage from the rear view of the dash cam as the police officer comes up from behind him. But again, here is what Officer Shrewsbury wrote in his police report. As I was catching up to the vehicle, I noticed the vehicle weaving through traffic recklessly. I was able to pull behind the vehicle and get it stopped, just past the intersection at Glen Jean on US Route 19. As you can see, this is completely false. Not only was there not any traffic, but the vehicle was not weaving at all, much less recklessly. So as you can see, from the moment the police officer comes into view of the rear dash cam video, he doesn't even leave the right-hand lane. There's no weaving at all. There's no reckless driving at all. Rather, what you're going to see are just lies in the form of trumped up charges and retaliation for what's about to occur here at this traffic stop. One other important fact here is that Brian, like everyone else in that area, they're well aware of this town speed trap on this 4-lane highway. So that's why he's filming, not only with dash cams, but also he pulls out his cell phone and he sets it up in a stationary position inside his car and begins filming the interaction. And that is in part what is going to cause the retaliation from this police officer. Take a look.
Go ahead and roll your window down for me.
It's all right.
Go ahead and roll your window down for me.
What do you need it down for?
Because I said roll the window down or you
Why
go
are
to jail.
Why are you being like that?
Roll the window down now.
I'm not going to.
All right, go ahead and step up the phone for me. Walk back here.
Notice that at no time during this interaction did Officer Shrewsbury even ask Brian for his license and registration or proof of insurance. He immediately had a beef about the window, which was a non-issue. There is no law in West Virginia that says that you have to roll your window all the way down for a police officer. There appears to be no reason for it to have been done here. It was a speeding traffic stop. He never even asked for the license and other documents, which could have been passed through the window. But he immediately had a beef about this, and he clearly had a beef about Brian filming him. So he immediately threatens to arrest him. And note that when he asks him to get out of the vehicle, Brian does get out of the vehicle. Then he's immediately put in handcuffs, and he's arrested for obstruction, disorderly conduct, speeding, and also he was charged with reckless driving. Then he calls for a canine to come search the vehicle, and they found nothing illegal while Brian sat handcuffed in the rear of the police car. And then Officer Shrewsbury comes back to the car. Now he's going to retrieve Brian's cell phone to presumably delete the video. Now, when he eventually got his cell phone back, the video had been deleted, and he found it in his recently deleted folder. I mean, go figure. Not the smartest tool in the shed. Also, the videos on the SD cards in the dash cams were also deleted when the car was eventually returned to Brian. Those ended up being recovered on the cloud. So remember that when this police officer wrote this police report, he thought he had deleted the footage. And it wasn't until much later, as the prosecution was underway, that the videos were presented to the prosecutor, who immediately asked for all the charges to be dismissed. And the court did dismiss all the charges, noting that there was no evidence to prosecute. A review of the evidence does not support prosecution of the case. And that was from the court, and all the charges were dismissed.
Sorry, man, I was arresting a fucking guy for being a goddamn cocksucker.
I love it.
So that's the very end of the cell phone footage, which the officer attempted to delete. You can see that he turned off the video. That's where it ends. And then eventually, when my client got his phone back, it was security locked, and that video was deleted. Again, he found it in the recently deleted folder. Now, this segment is important because one of the claims that we included in the lawsuit was First Amendment retaliation. Here, Officer Shrewsbury is telling some unknown third party who he's talking to on the phone really the reason why he did what he did, because he thinks this guy is a blank, blank, blank. This is retaliation for this guy filming him, this guy not wanting to roll his window all the way down, which apparently many times hurts police officers' feelings because they like to think that they're like this sheepdog protecting the public, when in reality, much of the public is afraid of them. Expressions of fear or criticism from police officers or to police officers, as well as filming them, is protected First Amendment activity. And when police officers beat you up or arrest you or maliciously charge you in response to that, in retaliation to that, then you can sue them for First Amendment retaliation. And that's what we did here. Is he basically told this guy why he was doing what he was doing, and this guy apparently wasn't surprised at his friend's behavior or coworker, whoever he was, and he basically cheered it on. He said, "I love it." So this is a case where having video footage that was able to survive even the police officer attempting to delete it saved this guy. And the authorities weren't going to do anything about it. They were going to prosecute him. They weren't going to help him until this video footage not only was surfaced, but until it hit YouTube and people were outraged by it. And speaking of First Amendment retaliation, we filed another civil lawsuit today against this same police officer, against this same town, on behalf of a guy named Nathan Nelson, who was a young man from Ohio who was just traveling through this same area. I also did a video on this. There's no video footage that exists, but it really is an egregious case. This happened before this traffic stop this is from August 15th, 2021. Basically, there was an altercation. Multiple police officers and agencies were called to the scene, but this guy Nathan was arrested there was misdemeanor possession of marijuana, and I think it was disorderly conduct. Anyways, he's in handcuffs. Nathan is expressing his criticism and his displeasure at this police officer. So he's handcuffed, and Officer Shrewsbury then says to him, "If you don't shut up, I'm going to take these handcuffs off and do one of those old West Virginia ass whoopings." Then, apparently, after more words were exchanged, Officer Shrewsbury turned abruptly and punched Nathan in the face with his closed fist. And that punch broke Nathan's jaw in two places and dislodged a tooth. And then afterwards, for some unknown reason, instead of getting him medical care, Officer Shrewsbury just placed him in the back of somebody else's patrol car from an entirely different agency. And this other police officer later finds this kid who'd been beat up, had his jaw broken, and he was bleeding, just handcuffed in the back of her police car. And she ended up taking him to the hospital to get treated. Now, those criminal charges against Nathan were eventually dropped, But really, it's an egregious case, and that's an excessive force case. But why did he do it? Why did he punch him? Because he couldn't take the criticism. He couldn't take what he perceived as disrespect. So he was going to use his badge to punch this kid who's much smaller in the face, who's handcuffed, to teach him a lesson. A good old West Virginia ass whooping. So I'll put both of these complaints so you can read all of the details on the blog at thecivilrightslawyer.com. And if you want to follow along on these cases, you can subscribe both here and at the blog at thecivilrightslawyer.com. For allegedly stealing an AR-15 lower from the company.
What?
We'll explain everything in a second.
And taken down to the police station in Virginia Beach, and then having to be unarrested apparently like 10 minutes later because this lower surprisingly just appeared.
Woo. Saved by the freaking mailman.
Hell yeah, appreciate you, sir.
Thank you for being cool with me and cooperative with me.
Because like my man, I knew like I ain't do shit. Like it had to get worked out.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
And like I said, if that happened and you were already in custody, then like you would have just been unarrested. Back out here.
I went over the full footage in my first video, which is like my second highest view video. Then in my last video, I went over the response from the employer and the fact that their attorney is trying to get me to remove that first video. Here's what this update is about. Several of you submitted FOIA requests to the Virginia Beach Police, and you got several different responses. And you're not going to believe this. This is outrageous. Just to briefly recap, the problems all started for James when this guy, a disgraced former Navy SEAL commander, whom I discussed in the last video, told some of his cop buddies with the Virginia Beach Police that James was suspected of stealing this AR-15 lower because he was on video leaving with it, but not coming back with it, and they never were able to locate it.
Saw him leave with the box, saw him come back without the box.
He didn't send it?
No.
So that guy was apparently friends with this Officer Dominic Reyes of the Virginia Beach Police Department. At one point during the body cam footage, we can see Officer Reyes saying he needs to go inside and talk to his boy. We believe that to be the same former Navy SEAL commander.
I'm gonna walk back in there and say hi to my boy real quick, and I'll meet you guys there.
So instead of treating this like any normal allegation, they basically treat this guy James like he's a suspected serial killer or arms trafficker or something.
Best case scenario, someone made him do it. Worst case scenario, he's involved in some trafficking. So,
And this Officer Reyes makes a big deal of going inside this business and confronting James, and instead of asking him any questions about the allegedly missing item, just makes a big deal of taking him into custody in just a very dramatic way.
What's that? Man. What's going on?
hey man, just go turn around and you think it's
What?
We'll explain everything in a second.
So Officer Reyes arranges this elaborate interrogation where they're going to put James into this cold room and then play good cop, bad cop and get him a bag of chips and a glass of water and get him to confess to being some big arms trafficker because of this allegedly missing lower.
I'm gonna walk back in there and say hi to my boy real quick, and I'll meet you guys there. Just get him in there. If you're sitting for a little bit, that's good. Okay? It's not gonna be too long, just say hi.
Good.
So like 45 minutes from now.
When you usually interview, do you just keep him cuffed in the mic the whole time? Can we usually interview?
No. Ask him if he wants some water. Alright? Ask him if he wants some chips.
You cuff him to the front, or you just let him?
No, so the detectives will guide you through it. Okay?
But then, while James is being held at the police station, that missing lower is found. And they actually show it to Officer Reyes.
So we got the box. Where's it at?
Taylor, can you give us a break? I'm sorry? Can you punch out here for a second? Yeah. Yeah. Just shut the door. Yeah. Yeah. So 10 minutes after you guys left, this showed up.
Can we open it and confirm it's in there? I know, but like...
Nope. As soon as Cole brought it in, he opened it.
Oh, he did?
He did. It's in there.
I'm really happy that this happened.
Yes.
So then James was brought back to his now former place of employment, and he was released from custody. And Reyes specifically told him that he wasn't arrested, and if he had been arrested, he would have been unarrested with this new information.
Saved by the freaking mailman.
Hell yeah, appreciate you, sir.
Thank you for being cool with me and cooperative with me.
Because I'm my man, I knew, like, I ain't do shit, like, it had to get worked out, that kind of thing.
And like I said, if that happened and you were already in custody, then like, you would have just been unarrested. Back out here.
The last thing that Reyes did was go back inside the business and then tell the same guy with the employer that he was going to make this huge report. He was going to document this whole incident just in case there was some problem where the documentation might be important.
All right, Jonathan. So, this report number right there, okay? Because I'm going to document the heck out of it.
Okay.
So it doesn't fall back on you guys, okay?
Roger that.
And that brings us to what's happened now. Last week, several FOIA responses came in that you guys had submitted, those of you who are Virginia residents, to the Virginia Beach Police. And I really appreciate you sharing those with me. Here's what happened. Some of you got no response at all, just flat out denial. At least one of you got a just bare bones response with nothing substantive. And the biggest squeaky wheel of you who threatened to sue them got the actual report. But here's the thing. Pretty much the entire thing, the entire 8-page report is completely redacted. Just a total cover-up from the police department. This is actually all it says. Narrative by Officer Dominic Alexander Reyes. On 12/4/23, I responded to blank at 26 blank International Parkway for a report of a larceny of a firearm. Blank blank, who advised me that on 11/13/23 at 16:57 hours, James Humphreys, of course they don't redact his information from this anywhere. He's not the one being protected here. Blank blank, a serialized BCM AR-15 lower. Then paragraph after paragraph of redaction. Then it says, I arrested Humphreys for larceny of a firearm and for possession of a Schedule I substance while carrying a firearm. Then redaction, just a whole paragraph full of them. Then it says, with no charges to proceed on, I unarrested Humphreys. Then more sentences redacted. Lastly, it says, I notified Sergeant R. Caraballo, his supervisor, I presume, of the case and the unarrest. And that's the report. And this is just outrageous. Honestly, I've never seen a police report redacted this heavily. How do they justify this? Well, this is the letter that they submitted to the individual who had threatened to sue them and submitted the FOIA request. And it says, enclosed, you'll find the public copy of the police report. Virginia Code Section 2.2-3706.1D now provides that criminal investigative files relating to a criminal investigation or proceeding that is not ongoing are excluded from the mandatory disclosure provisions of the Virginia FOIA. Furthermore, the requested report or material is part of an administrative or internal investigation. As such, it is exempted from disclosure under Section 2.2-3706B9 of the Code of Virginia, the Freedom of Information Act. The 8-page internal copy of the police report, 4-page call for service, and 32 Axon videos totaling approximately 6 hours, 22 minutes, and 59 seconds, are being withheld under the aforementioned exemptions. If you have any questions, you can call or email specialist CIV Serrano. So they're basically withholding the report. And apparently the state legislative patriots in the Commonwealth of Virginia did indeed, likely at the behest of the law enforcement lobby, change their FOIA law, I think in 2021, to make police reports non-mandatory under certain circumstances. In looking into this, the excuse that they gave to change the law here and make this non-mandatory is that they were worried about like photographs of crime victims being released publicly, protecting crime victims. That was the pretext for this. But we know, and we can see now in the pudding, that the real reason was to protect law enforcement with secrecy. And that's what they've been doing for a long time here in West Virginia. And no way does their action here in withholding this report protect any victims of crime. All they are doing is protecting themselves and perhaps their friends. And they're protecting themselves from a documented, already public, constitutional violation by one of their police officers against a member of the public. And they do imply, at least, or they say that there's an internal administrative investigation ongoing, perhaps internal affairs investigation or what have you. Is Officer Reyes still there? Has he been disciplined? We're not going to know, because even though they are supposedly public servants, they are keeping it from the public. Is it because they're embarrassed? Is it because they're worried about liability? Who knows? Even in what they did show us, it shows a constitutional violation. We see in the video that Officer Reyes claims that he did not arrest James, that even if we had arrested you, we would unarrest you. And they put in the report that they did unarrest him, which implies that they arrested him to begin with. They had no arrest warrant for James. In order to perform a warrantless arrest under the Fourth Amendment, they would have had to have probable cause. They even concede, in what we can see that's unredacted in the police report, that there was no probable cause to arrest James. They took James into custody with multiple police officers present. They handcuffed him. They perp walked him out of the building. They put him in a police car. They transported him to the police department. They put him in a cold room and interrogated him, ultimately bringing him back later. Whether or not they completed the paperwork or actually charged him at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. At a certain point, they have arrested him just objectively, whether or not they admit it. There's a U.S. Supreme Court case out there from 1985, United States versus Sharp, that says that at some point, an investigative stop or encounter can transform into a de facto arrest, and that this determination must consider the law enforcement purposes to be served by the stop and the time reasonably needed to effectuate those purposes. That case was just cited by a Second Circuit opinion that came out today, where a police officer yanked a guy out of a car in Connecticut just because he was legally armed with a permit and held him in handcuffs for 30 minutes while he searched his car because the guy was armed, even though it was completely legal. And that court said that they can't just claim that that was a Terry stop. That was an arrest, whether they admit it or not. And really, it's the same thing here for what they did to James in Virginia Beach. Yet they're covering it up. This is what a cover-up looks like. I mean, they literally are covering up with black, it's not marker, but basically black marker. Those of you who are residents of Virginia who have elected representatives who were supposed to be representing your interests in Richmond, you may want to contact them about this, because they duped you, or they were duped, that this was to protect crime victims. And now look, it's being used, at least by the Virginia Beach police, to cover up their own misconduct from the public whom they are supposed to serve. So contact your politicians if you're in Virginia and point out what they're doing. Keep the pressure on the Virginia Beach police, because they cannot be allowed to get away with this. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe both here and at the blog at thecivilrightslawyer.com. If you've already subscribed, check to make sure you haven't been unsubscribed, because I'm hearing more and more that that's happening to people. Remember, our rights don't end where you're...
Officer Haley Hulbert of the Crossroads Police Department received a call for service regarding a dog being left inside a vehicle at the local Walmart in Crossroads, Texas. Officer Hulbert located the vehicle in question at 9:24 p.m. and discovered a dog inside with all the windows rolled up. Historical weather data shows that at the time of Officer Hulbert's arrival, the temperature in Crossroads was approximately 90 degrees Fahrenheit. However, the dog did not appear to be in a state of emergency. Around 6 minutes after Officer Hulbert arrived on the scene, a man named Garth Beard exited the Walmart and approached the vehicle. The interaction that followed was captured on Officer Hulbert's body-worn camera.
Is this your car?
Yeah.
Okay. I was this close to breaking the window out.
It's not that hot.
It's 95 degrees. It means it's over 100 inside the vehicle.
I've been in there.
Windows have to be cracked. There's got to be something.
I was trying to keep the air conditioning in for him because I literally...
Okay, go and open that door for and crack the windows open for the dog, and I'm going to use your driver's license, please. 428. I'm out with the vehicle owner. Hi. Okay. Hi.
You can feel it's not...
It's 95 degrees.
But inside, I was keeping the AC, and trust me, I love my dog.
The car isn't running.
I take him with me everywhere.
Okay. I just need to see the driver's license.
I don't have one with me.
Do I have any ID with you?
No.
Do you know your driver's license number?
What did I do wrong?
This is a criminal offense, okay?
What is a criminal offense?
For animal neglect and abuse, yes.
No, I do not abuse and neglect my animal.
Okay.
I need a supervisor.
Okay.
No.
Driver's license?
I need a supervisor, please.
What is your driver's license?
Please, I need a supervisor.
I don't have one on duty right now.
Look, I respect officers. I have family that are officers, but I also respect the Constitution.
Go and crack your windows and then close your door. Wait out here, I'll call a supervisor and see if he can contact me by phone.
All right.
Okay, I'm out with the subject. He's out here. He's refusing to identify himself. He's now asking for a supervisor.
He's asking for a supervisor? Okay. Are you back en route?
Where are you at? Do you want to talk to him on the phone?
No, I'm right down the street.
Okay.
I'll be there in a minute.
Okay, all right. Thanks. Bye. Supervisor's turning back around and he's going to come out.
I would never do. I would just, it's not...
This is some of the worst temps. It's 95 degrees outside. That doesn't matter.
If I cracked the windows, that would let the 95 degree air in. I literally had it freezing cold in there before I should.
I'm responding out to a call, okay?
Sure, I understand.
And this is me responding. I'm not telling you you're a dog owner or anything like that.
Well, yeah.
I am here because I still have to do my job. I have to identify you now, okay? Because I'm out here for an offense.
No.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I'll let you talk to the supervisor when he gets out here. This is a private parking lot. I'm not going to ask you about your vehicle. My main concern is just the dog's okay. And then for documentation purposes, I do have to put your information in there, okay? I'm not saying you're going to jail. I'm not saying you're being issued a citation. I'm just trying to do my job because everything has to be notated that I made contact, okay? And make sure that well-being of that animal is okay.
Broken arrow?
I mean...
It's going to be closer to 100 degrees inside that vehicle. It's 95 degrees
If I
out
crack
here.
the windows, I know it's going to be 95 degrees in there. I had it freezing cold.
Your car is not running.
I know. I shut it off. I closed the windows. I let the freezing cold air in there. Trust me, when I opened the door and got in there, it was colder inside than it was outside.
Okay.
I would not do that to my dog. I love my dog.
Okay.
He goes everywhere with me.
This is my supervisor right here.
How you doing? How you doing? Sergeant Tyler.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Crossroads Police Fire, just show you that I'm Sergeant Tyler. If you'd like to see my ID also.
I'm sure if they vouch for you, they...
Okay, so what did you speak with me about?
Well, she, I guess, got a call about my dog.
Yes, sir, we did.
I parked the car, and I had it freezing cold in there. I literally got it. I sat in there.
Okay.
It got it freezing cold.
Okay.
It's not sunny anymore.
Okay.
So it's not, radiating heat or anything like that.
Okay.
And I went inside. I've been in there for 15 minutes.
Okay.
And, I mean, what did I do wrong?
Okay, so when we get a call for service, okay, and especially when we do contact somebody, we do need to identify the person.
That's the law.
Hang on, I'm not done. Let me finish speaking, okay?
Sure.
Now, we don't know you had your car at sub-0 degrees earlier today.
Sure.
We had no idea.
Right.
But somebody did call and say, hey, there's an animal left in the vehicle. It is hot outside. And the animal looks like it's in distress.
Right. And you came here, investigated, and figured in distress.
Right.
I don't know about that. But you came here, investigated,
that's
realized.
That's what's relayed to us.
That's what relayed to us.
Right.
However,
anybody can say anything. You
sure,
came here.
Sure.
I mean, the dog was everywhere. I love that dog. I'm not going to...
Totally understand. We love dogs. I got a dog too. I love my dog as well. So when an officer does contact someone, they're required, especially when we believe that there could be a criminal offense, to identify.
82.03, I think it is. You could ask for my identification. I don't have to get it unless I've been lawfully arrested. That's the only time.
So that's not true.
Look it up. Look it up. That's all I'm asking.
Both Sergeant Tyler and Officer Holbert informed Mr. Beard that he is lawfully required to show his ID because he was detained under suspicion of criminal activity, and Mr. Beard insists that the officers are wrong. Now, we will discuss whether the officers had reasonable suspicion to detain Mr. Beard in a moment, but whether or not the officers had obtained reasonable suspicion would have no impact on any legal obligation for Mr. Beard to present his ID. As mentioned in previous episodes, many states require citizens to present their identification to members of law enforcement if they are suspected of committing or having committed a crime. However, Texas is one of several states that does not legally compel a citizen to present their ID unless they have been lawfully arrested outside the context of a traffic stop. The statute that Mr. Beard was attempting to reference is Section 38.02 of the Texas Penal Code, which serves as the state's failure to identify law. This statute explicitly states that citizens are only required to provide their name, address, and date of birth to an officer who, quote, has lawfully arrested the person and requested the information. At this point in the interaction, Mr. Beard is being detained by the Crossroads officers, but he is not under formal arrest, which means that his refusal to identify himself would almost certainly not constitute a violation of the code. Furthermore, Section 38.02 obligates citizens to provide their name, address, and date of birth, not their physical identification card upon request from an officer in the course of a lawful arrest. So even if the officers had arrested Mr. Beard for the alleged quote-unquote animal cruelty violation, he still would not have been lawfully required to provide his driver's license or any other form of physical identification, and simply stating his name, address, and birthday would have satisfied the requirements under Texas law. Despite Mr. Beard's struggle to recall the exact title of the code, he correctly cited the language of the relevant Texas law to the officers, and it is highly unlikely that a court would agree with Sergeant Tyler and Officer Holbert's understanding of the code.
Okay, you're being lawfully detained because there is an animal in the vehicle. We got a call for service.
The windows are down now.
The windows are down now.
I instructed you to put them down.
Yeah.
Okay.
No problems, committee.
Yes, sir. Potentially. Okay.
Come on, man. I saw you trying not to laugh.
Here's the deal. As soon as we're done, as soon as you give your ID and we're done, we're gone.
I don't like the fact that we have to show our papers. Look, I have a lot of family there in your business, okay? I respect you guys. I also respect the Constitution.
But you are lawfully detained.
And I do not have to show. I cannot give you. Please just look it up. I swear to God.
Failed ID.
Please just look it up. I know. Look it up. I'm telling you. You're gonna make a big mistake.
No, I'm not.
I know this very well. I know this.
So do I. How long have you been doing law enforcement?
Just look it up. Would it kill you to look it up?
You have a phone right there.
I'm recording,
look it up. So are we?
We're all recording.
Yeah, those disappeared. You guys don't have a phone you can look it up?
Those get edited.
What get edited?
Those get edited. So that's what I'm saying.
Your phones?
You're saying these get disappeared. Those get edited.
Sure.
Okay. Sure. What's your name, sir?
Garth.
I'm sorry?
Garth.
Yeah. Okay. Garth, what's your last name?
I don't have to give it to you.
Okay, I don't call people by their first names because it's a respect name. Okay?
Nice try.
Until I get to know them. It's not a nice try. This is
what this country has become. This is what this country. You guys are like addicted to IDs. and you don't even know the law. Here, you know what? I'll look it up.
Go for it.
I'm going to show you because you'll be very surprised.
Look up failed ID.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Failure to identify. A person commits an offense if he intentionally refuses to give his name, residence, address, or date of birth to a police officer who has lawfully arrested the person.
They see that.
The police officer who has lawfully arrested the person. A person commits a crime. A person, look, it's right here. A person commits an offense.
Read it yourself.
Yes, and you. Let me read it again to you. A person commits an offense. You totally not under. You didn't understand. This says I can't give you a false name. This is a different section. This is the first one. That's not my problem. It really isn't.
It is.
No, it isn't.
Okay, here's the deal. Here's what can happen because you're refusing to identify yourself. I'm supposed to bring up your ID and say, here's
Hold
who I
on.
am.
So you're gonna arrest me for refusing to identify myself?
You just read it.
I read. Yeah, I cannot give you a face name. But why do you please pull it up? I swear to God, I'm not lying here. There was two different sections I read. Okay.
Hang on, listen to me.
Oh my God.
The other part of it is that when you do that, the other consequence, now we have to impound your dog, and we don't want to do that either. You said you love your dog.
Yeah, that would be retaliation.
No, sir, it's not. We can't leave the dog.
If you guys want a massive lawsuit on your hands, I mean, you guys.
How is that retaliation? We can't leave the dog here in the car by itself.
Really?
Yes, sir.
You're gonna.
I'm letting you know what the consequences are.
This is America. This is what you're doing to a citizen. Okay? All I did was go inside, grab some clothes quick. I sat in the car, got it. Yeah, somebody called. Okay, what do you do? I mean, that doesn't mean I do anything wrong. You know?
Let me ask you this. What is your end goal here?
You guys need to be educated. You really don't understand that what I'm telling you is actually the truth. And and police officers.
So what is your end goal?
To go on about my way.
So is ours.
Okay, well, go.
Your way.
You have this addiction to ID. I'm not prolonging this. This is unlawful detainment.
This is our duty. We have to identify you.
Show me the law.
You just read it out loud.
I know, and you're not understanding because I just read it to you.
I know. We understand it. We do this day in and day out.
Okay. We came and investigated. Realized there was no crime.
We don't know that.
And now we have failure to identify.
No, you don't. My goodness, ma'am, you need to really get educated. Why won't you read it? I wouldn't lie to you. Just look it up. You won't even read it. That's how bad it is. You won't even read it. I'm telling you.
I'm out here with someone that I do not know who I'm out here with. I'm not going to get distracted in a cell phone or a computer.
To read the law? You'd rather just arrest me?
I don't need to read the law.
Yeah, you do.
We do this day in and day out.
Improperly, apparently.
Sergeant Tyler explains that the department received a call for service, which granted them reasonable suspicion to detain and investigate Mr. Beard for a potential animal cruelty violation. And Mr. Beard contends that their suspicion has been dispelled because his dog is obviously not in distress. As mentioned before, even if the Crossroads officers had reasonable suspicion to investigate Mr. Beard, that does not mean that he was under any legal obligation to provide his name or physical ID. When Officer Holbert arrived at the Walmart parking lot, her investigative starting point was the 911 call alleging that a dog had been left inside a sealed vehicle on a hot night. Even without the audio of that call, it is likely that this complaint justified a welfare check, if nothing else, because officers do not need reasonable suspicion to walk up to a parked car in a public lot and assess what's happening. However, once the interaction shifted from a welfare check to a detention based on suspected criminal activity, the officers were required to establish reasonable suspicion before effectuating a lawful detention. In Texas, courts have repeatedly emphasized that a call for service, standing alone, does not automatically supply reasonable suspicion to detain a person without corroboration. In the 1999 case of Juan Luis Garcia v. the State of Texas, the Texas 14th Court of Appeals explained that an anonymous tip may justify initiating an investigation, but it rarely establishes the level of suspicion needed for an investigative detention unless officers develop additional indicia of reliability and corroborate the criminal aspects of the allegation. And this aligns with the broader reliability framework the Supreme Court established in the 1990 case of Alabama v. White, where the quality and reliability of the information drives how much corroboration is necessary before police may detain a suspect. The crime that the officers were investigating was likely Section 42.092 of the Texas Penal Code, which outlaws failing to provide necessary food, water, care, or shelter for an animal in a citizen's custody, as well as transporting or confining an animal in a cruel manner. Under that statute, establishing reasonable suspicion would be driven by observations such as animal distress, lethargy, frantic behavior, dangerous conditions, or any other unreasonable risk of harm. And the statute itself explicitly defines quote-unquote cruel manner as meaning, now quoting, a manner that causes or permits unjustified or unwarranted pain or suffering. When Officer Holbert arrived at the scene, she observed a dog inside a vehicle, but did not observe the dog in distress or enduring unjustified pain or suffering. Rather than taking any legitimate investigative actions, such as locating the owner inside the store, documenting symptoms of distress, or establishing a legitimate duration beyond speculation, Officer Holbert waited near the vehicle for the owner to arrive and immediately demanded his ID. Although the call and the circumstances likely warranted officer intervention, there is a strong argument to be made that no legitimate reasonable suspicion existed for a potential criminal violation.
Well, you don't know that, so you have no reasonable articulable suspicion.
Yes.
No, you just said...
If a crime has been committed or is about to be committed. So,
has been, is about to be, or is currently, yeah. Have I committed a crime?
Well, currently failed ID.
That's not a crime. It's only a crime if you've been lawfully arrested. And if you take the time to just read the freaking statute, you realize this. Brother, I'm not lying to you, man. Just read it. I just read it to you.
Yes, you read it yourself.
Yes. I'm shocked that 3 officers really don't know this. That out of the 3 of you, a supervisor of all things, usually the supervisor is the one that knows.
And I'm speaking to you, and I do know it. And again, we read it. I'll sit right next to you while we read it together. Okay?
Yeah. And I just told you what it said. Where does it say that I have to show my ID?
Here's the deal.
Where does it say that I have to show my ID and what I just read to you?
In 3002, you just read.
What part?
Failed ID when someone is lawfully detained.
No, I cannot give you a false name when I'm lawfully detained.
The crime of animal cruelty has possibly, is it currently, or had been committed. Okay?
Now, well, investigate. Investigate. Prove it.
That's the part.
You just said you don't know how long I've been in the store. If you knew how long I've been in the store.
So the part of the investigation is then we contact Walmart and say, hey.
Okay, investigate.
Here's what we need to do.
That's fine. You got my VIN number.
We need to figure out who this person is and how long you've been in the store. How long the animal.
I've explained this thoroughly enough and physically read the statute to you. You guys are losing your qualified immunity, okay? Seriously. Are you a sergeant?
Yes, sir.
And you don't know this?
Absolutely. I guess this is I don't know.
Bewildering. I mean, this is just, I'm
sorry.
Beside myself.
But if you just read it with me.
Call your lieutenant.
You don't have a lieutenant.
Captain.
No, sir.
How are you gonna? What you trying to do?
I need the identification, and right now the dog is having to sit in the car even further.
Yeah,
because
you really don't care about the animal, do you?
You will not identify yourself.
You really don't care about the animal, do you?
I am here to do my job.
You're here to get my ID. That's all you want.
I need your identification to complete this process.
It's like crack, you guys.
It's required.
No, it isn't. Would you freaking read 3802? Would you read it? It's right there.
No.
It's right there. You're not even going to read it.
No, I am not.
Do you realize
I'm going to stand here with you.
Do you realize how bad this is going to look in court?
That's fine.
When you refuse to read the statute.
I am on a call. I'm not burying my face in a computer.
To find a law? You don't care? You think
I don't
you know
have
the
to.
law. You don't have to? You don't have to know the law.
I already know it.
Please read on look at 3002.
I've read it. I read it. I studied it.
Okay.
I tested over it.
Right, but you're interpreting it improperly.
All right.
And you guys really, I implore you to educate yourselves about this.
Stand right there.
Sure.
So we can't do that. But is it prudent to do that? So here's cut loose, and even though we know that's what he's doing.
Mm-hmm. What if that trooper would have done that to Timothy McVeigh? But whatever.
I agree. Mm-hmm. I agree. However, this is where we're at. So here's the deal. Although
the plate does come back to 4012 Waterfront Drive.
I'm not trying to give you guys a hard time. I'm trying to answer.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not. You're giving me a hard time.
Let me finish.
Sure.
Yes, you are trying to give us a hard time.
I'm not trying to. I'm really not.
Secondly,
I'm just trying to get my... Sure.
Secondly, the animal cruelty will still continue to be investigated.
I wish I could have had you put your hand in the car when I opened the door. It was literally cooler inside than it was outside. Okay? You guys have to investigate.
You don't know that.
Yeah, but you can't automatically assume the worst.
We're not. That's why it's called an investigation.
Right.
We didn't assume the worst.
Right.
That's why we call it investigation. The officers come out, they investigate, they contact people, they say, hey, is this your car? Yeah, this is my car. Is this your animal? Yes, this is my animal. Can I have your ID, please? Because you're lawfully detained because there is a complaint and possible criminal offense of animal cruelty.
Yeah, that's the thing, sure. So you investigate, but you don't have to get my ID to investigate.
Yes.
Look, I'll tell you, we have an epidemic in this country of constitutional rights get violated all the time through this. And I know you guys don't think I could possibly be right.
And
you guys
Officer
know the
Holbert
law,
didn't do that tonight.
But just look at
Officer Jones didn't do it, and I didn't do that tonight either.
Well, I mean, technically, this detainment has lasted a little longer than it's supposed to, but
that's
due to you.
That's due to you. You are free to go.
Go home, take care of your dog.
Please look up the law tonight.
The officers allowed Mr. Beard to leave the scene without further incident. Following the encounter, Mr. Beard filed complaints against the officers and followed up on those complaints directly with Crossroads Police Chief Sean Short. Chief Short responded to Mr. Beard's inquiry, stating that the internal investigation had been complete and attached an official letter explaining the department's actions. In the letter, Chief Short acknowledged that the officers were wrong about their interpretation of Section 38.02, but also claimed that the duration of Mr. Beard's detention was partially attributable to his lack of cooperation with the investigation. The chief went on to blatantly admit that Mr. Beard's detention was prolonged because the officers were distracted by Mr. Beard's unwillingness to provide his ID and their failure to recognize that it was not required. According to the chief's letter, the Crossroads Police Department staff were, quote-unquote, refamiliarized with Section 38.02 as a result of the internal investigation. After drafting a thorough and lengthy reply to Chief Short, Mr. Beard decided to move forward with legal action. Mr. Beard hired an attorney and issued a demand letter to the mayor of Crossroads alleging violations of his constitutional rights and requesting $75,000 in compensation. The city of Crossroads apparently rejected this offer because on March 5th, 2025, Mr. Beard filed a federal lawsuit against the city and both Officer Holbert and Sergeant Tyler. On May 27th, 2025, Mr. Beard voluntarily dismissed his claims against the officers, seeking only to pursue claims against the city. And on July 2nd, 2025, Mr. Beard also dismissed his claims against the city after reaching an undisclosed resolution. Overall, the Crossroads officers get an F for demonstrating a fundamental misunderstanding of both Texas law and basic constitutional principles, failing to conduct a legitimate investigation before baselessly threatening to arrest Mr. Beard, and for displaying a hostile and confrontational attitude throughout the encounter. There is no denying that a call about a dog potentially trapped inside of a hot vehicle warrants an officer's investigation, and the officers were well within their authority to approach Mr. Beard's vehicle and initiate that investigation. However, instead of taking simple investigative steps that would actually matter to an animal cruelty assessment, Officer Holbert immediately shifted the encounter into a compliance standoff centered on acquiring an ID she was not lawfully entitled to, while treating the existence of a call for service as if it were proof of criminality. As mentioned before, none of the officers on the scene took any meaningful steps to investigate whether a crime had actually occurred. occurred, or do anything to objectively assess whether the conditions were actually dangerous. Instead, the officers acted as though the mere presence of a dog in a car with the windows up was inherently criminal. But a legitimate law enforcement investigation requires more than assumptions and generalized concerns. Perhaps the most troubling aspect of this encounter was the fact that none of the officers on the scene, including Sergeant Tyler, seemed to possess even a basic understanding of their own state's identification laws. Even when Mr. Beard read the law aloud directly to the officers, they still did not comprehend what it meant or how it applied to this encounter, despite Officer Holbert's assertion that she, quote-unquote, didn't need to read the law. Furthermore, Chief Short's handling of this case post-interaction was also highly unprofessional and lacking in a meaningful resolution. The chief explicitly admitted that his officers were wrong about the law, but also framed the prolongment of the encounter as a result of Mr. Beard's unwillingness to simply surrender his rights for their officers' convenience. Rather than treating the officer's mistake as a serious training and accountability failure, the department's response effectively shifted blame onto Mr. Beard for not making the constitutional violation easier to commit. This perspective can only be described as inherently unconstitutional because it conditions civil rights on whether exercising them is convenient for the government, which is exactly what the Constitution was written to prevent. This interaction highlights just how quickly a legitimate public safety call can be transformed into an unnecessary rights violation when officers treat suspicion as proof, prioritize forced compliance over fact-finding, and rely on incorrect legal assumptions to justify escalating a routine encounter. Mr. Beard gets an A+ for remaining calm and collected throughout the encounter, correctly interpreting and reciting the applicable statute to the officers, and for following up this interaction with the proper legal action. From the very beginning of the interaction, Mr. Beard handled the encounter in a way that immediately undercut any potential claim that he posed a safety risk to the officers or was attempting to obstruct their investigation. He did not raise his voice, use profanity, or engage in personal attacks, even as the officers escalated the interaction with repeated threats of arrest and animal impoundment. Instead, Mr. Beard stayed focused on the specific issue in dispute and continued to respond in a controlled and measured manner, which is the single most effective way for a citizen to preserve their innocence and legal liability on camera without giving officers a pretext to reframe the encounter as disorderly or resistant. Mr. Beard also demonstrated a strong understanding of the relevant Texas law and the constitutional principles surrounding this encounter, and correctly explained the distinction the statute draws between refusing to provide information and providing false identifying information. The fact that he was willing to cite and explain the governing statute in real time, and to do so without becoming confrontational, placed the officers in the difficult position of either reevaluating their assumptions or continuing to insist on a legal obligation that did not exist. That said, Mr. Beard's strongest decision was not the debate itself, but the discipline and diligence he demonstrated after the encounter ended. He followed up by filing an official complaint, and when that did not render productive results, he moved forward with a lawsuit and likely settled out of court. I commend Mr. Beard for having the patience, courage, and diligence to both successfully navigate this police interaction and follow it up with the proper legal action. This interaction highlights how a calm, information-driven approach in the moment, followed by disciplined use of formal complaint and civil litigation channels, can turn a civil rights violation into a documented record that forces institutional accountability. Let us know if there's an interaction or legal topic that you would like us to discuss in the comments down below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to check out Audit the Court if you're interested in learning more about the legal nuance beyond the body cam.
Social security numbers, different hair color, eye color. This Jennifer is 5 inches taller. She's 23 years older than the Jennifer wanted in the warrant. And most importantly, she didn't have minor children to endanger.
I have an update for you. This is an incident that took place in December of 2022 on Christmas Eve, as a woman named Jennifer Heath Box returned from a cruise only to be arrested due to having a warrant for child endangerment. Well, the twist is Mrs. Box's youngest child is 30. The person the warrant was for was only 26 years old. If you're not familiar with this story, I'm going to catch you up and then I'll give you the update.
Begin with this bizarre story. It's a case of mistaken identity. Imagine wrapping up a family vacation and you end up behind bars. The only problem, she didn't commit a crime.
It's for endangering a child.
I think you'll have the wrong person.
Endangering a child? Well, that's why we verify.
That's why we're going to verify it.
That's why we
Just have
verify.
to verify
It's
it
okay.
there.
I mean, where is your right?
Now she's suing the Broward Sheriff's Office for her arrest, but who's at fault? NBC6's Ari Adzer joins us live with the details on this strange twist here. Ari?
So, Jackie, they are two women with similar names, and that's pretty much where the parallels end. Yet BSO threw the wrong one in jail, arresting her as she disembarked from a Christmas cruise with her family here at Port Everglades in 2022 on a warrant from Texas for endangering a child.
It's for endangering a child.
I think you'll have the wrong person.
Endangering a child? Well, that's why we verify.
That's why we're going to verify.
Except something went seriously wrong in the verification process.
Behind your back.
BSO deputies arrested Jennifer Heath Box as she disembarked from a cruise in 2022, even though the warrant for child endangerment was for a woman named Jennifer Del Carmen Heath.
I can't stress enough that this woman was arrested for endangering her own minor children when she did not have minor children. Her youngest child is 30 years old. But for those individuals who love to support the blue and simply say things like this may be a one-off, well, what about this incident where a young man was arrested because he was riding in the back seat with his grandmother? Another woman being held at gunpoint for stealing her own car. In this case, where a father tried to report that his daughter was kidnapped and he was the one that was arrested. Or this case, where a man was detained for 17 hours and questioned about a crime that never happened. One thing that we know for a fact, including this update that we're about to receive in all the cases we just spoke about, is that police accountability does not exist.
You have a child? My kids are grown. They're in college.
They're grown in college and moved away.
Like I said, that's why we verify.
Is this something that's out of Florida?
No.
I know this is not right. You got 110%.
I don't know what child.
This is absolutely.
My kids are grown.
Go ahead and do what I just saw, what I had mentioned to you, give them everything. Let me have the phone. Hold on to the phone. So these are the only two things we're going to bring with us. Go ahead and give them the wallet, the purse. Don't take the jewelry off if you want. If you have any necklaces, earrings, go ahead and take that off your belt. Take that off.
Make sure you tell him where you put all the
My
valuables.
jewelry's all in here. Passport, do I need this?
No, no.
Do you have any piercings?
No. I guess just go home and I'll fly
There's
home
no
whenever.
way I'm not going to go home without you.
Where's home?
Texas, Houston.
To go see our kids.
That's where the warrant is out of, so you're going there.
I don't know what kid I endangered. I have
She has a necklace?
This is crazy.
Check your back pocket, your front pocket, no little, anything small. Your earrings?
I don't have any earrings. Oh, this is amazing.
Put your palms together. There you go.
Like you're praying. We're gonna verify it. We'll take you down. I'll pat you down the stairs so not to embarrass you. Okay? What time was your flight?
8:50. I come to see my kids, but I have to spoils me. Yeah, I have no idea how.
Yes, she's shaking
No,
her
the
head.
husband wanted to.
That was, I know, baby, but we technically have to hold
Yeah, I know. Okay.
He said we'll meet. Yeah, he'll meet us.
Oh, was with him?
Yeah, he said he'll meet us.
Okay.
Did you press the button?
I think he said he'll meet us.
Yeah.
So we're going to the downtown Fort Lauderdale job. Going to the downtown Fort Lauderdale job. Does it say how long the warrant has been active?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, that first date that I had said, I believe that's correct. It says that if that's what the DOW stands for.
For those of you who still don't understand how ridiculous this arrest was, allow me to list these things off to you again. Arrested in December of 2022 in Broward County after disembarking a cruise because officials mistakenly thought she was someone else with a similar name, but she was a different age, a different height, had a different appearance. Her middle name was different, had a different date of birth, had a different state of residence. The photos did not match and they had different physical markers. She spent 3 days in jail over Christmas before authorities realized the error. Box filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against Broward County, the Broward County Sheriff's Office, and the individual deputies, claiming unconstitutional arrest and detention. Earlier this year, the court stated that the lawsuit can proceed, and qualified immunity for the deputies was denied. In September 2025, a U.S. District Court Judge, Melissa Damian, ruled that the lawsuit can move forward. Importantly, the court rejected the deputies' claim of qualified immunity, meaning they cannot easily be shielded from liability simply because they're law enforcement. And the court came to this decision because there were obvious discrepancies between Box and the wanted suspect: age, height, physical characteristics, etc. These are things that law enforcement should have checked before arresting her. And even though I agree with all of you that qualified immunity should be done away with completely, at least in this case, the qualified immunity for each deputy was denied. So they are going to be and should be held responsible for this idiotic, ridiculous arrest. This is why we fight back. Make sure you know your rights and always protect yourself. With that being said, we the people, you, signing off.